What is up, everybody? Welcome to Geek Pantheon. I am Eric, and today I'm going to show you how to build this table for less than $200. Your very own gaming table. Let's check it out. Hello, everyone. So yes, I have built a gaming table. You know, it's not going to put anybody out of business in terms of the high-end manufacturers, but it's a good gaming table. I have now used it to play an entire day's worth of D&D on it, and it held up quite well. It's got a nice cloth finish on it, wood surrounding the whole thing, and yeah, it's great. I really enjoy it, and it does its job well. And I built it myself for total cost of the finished product less than $200. This was definitely a learning experience, as you're about to see, because I documented the whole thing, or 90% of the whole thing, of building an 8-foot by 4-foot gaming table, then bringing it in here and realizing, oh no, that is far too big for my space. So converting that 8-foot by 4-foot down to a 6-foot by 3-foot, which you see right here. So I'm going to show you the process of how I did it, and then we'll come back here and talk about my takeaways, what I learned, and how you all can build this table yourself for less than $200. So past Eric, take it away. Okay, everyone, so welcome to my garage. And first things first, like I said, I don't have a table that I can make use of for this project just to start out. I need something that I can put away when I'm not playing a game. And so I picked up a folding table. I found this one. It's a 6-foot by 3-foot table for $50 at Lowe's. So, you know, not a terrible price for a good solid folding table. I'm gonna be able to fold all the way in half, throw in a closet, forget about until I'm ready to bust this thing back out again. Also, what I have, because I don't have a pickup truck, I couldn't load up a 4-foot by 8-foot piece of plywood for the playing space. So instead what I did is I got 2-foot by 4-foot particle board panels. I got 4 of them, and we're gonna assemble them to where they can make a 4 by 8 playing space in total. And then we'll use cloth to cover it so it looks like one solid flat gaming space. So yeah, that's what we're doing just to accommodate my own personal limitations on vehicles that I have. Now I've got all 4 pieces kind of set up. The 4th one will go up once we're done attaching the first 3. But yeah, so like I said, the table is 6-foot by 3-foot, but my playing space is gonna be 4 feet by 8 feet. So there's plenty of overhang. So yeah, we're gonna be attaching these to where it's just one after the other with some 1x2s that I have cut. These are gonna serve 2 functions. One is providing support for the panels on the underhand side, and we're gonna measure them out to where these act as kind of rails that frame the table underneath it so that our tabletop won't slide around. It'll have some security to where obviously the table can wobble, but your tabletop's not going to go crazy if somebody bumps into it, leans over the table to reach something. This will provide a little bit of security. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do right now, is get all of this attached, and hopefully that works and we can continue on to the next part. So yeah, this is the tabletop flipped. We have the 1x2s that I showed you all screwed under there.
It's super secure.
It has secured it to the folding table to where it won't slide around.
You measured it like perfectly.
Thank you.
Because it's like right against the edge of both
did it
sides
on
of
my
the table.
first try. I didn't have to flip it over and back and forth over and over trying to get it just right.
Very impressed.
I'm absolutely lying. So yeah, the only thing is we're just gonna need to do some stuff on the underside just to secure that so it's flat while we wrap it. But then we can take those off, because when we put the actual framing around the top of the table, that should keep everything nice and flat and happy. So Miley pointed out the fabric is very wrinkly, and if we don't iron it before we staple it down, then the wrinkles will eventually settle and make the fabric loose. So we're gonna do some ironing.
Hey, don't throw wood at me.
So while he's working on that, I'm gonna cut out the cup holders. So I have a 3-inch hole saw bit that I picked up that I should be able to just, drill straight into this and punch out. This is actually, 3¼ inch, because soda cans are 3 inches. So you want a little bit more. Mind your way.
I just figured you were there and then.
Oh, we have a good outline. Now we know where it's gonna go.
Good job. Okay, so this is going to be pulled tight and stapled.
So how do you want to do that?
So the best way to do
The
it
sides or the ends?
is to do the ends. Like if somebody holds the ends as tight as they can go down here,
Okay.
then we have good cover or like a good hold on the edge, and we can then stretch from the sides
Okay.
and go down the line. Does that make sense?
So you want to do the stretching since you know what it's supposed to look like, and I'll just be the
Staple
report.
guy.
What?
Okay. We also need to make sure that when we get to these parts that we are holding these in place where they should be, not stapling where they are currently. You know what I'm saying? So I would start by you stand on that side
Okay.
and pull right here, right at the base, just as I'll hold it down here, but pull it as tight as.
So don't do that. Okay. And then staple.
Yep. And I would staple closer to here.
Here.
Yep. You gotta.
Yeah.
Okay, so try again because it needs to be held against the. Just get a hammer and smack it down. It'll get easier. So,
And then that side.
then I would do this side. Hold it as tight as possible. And then hammer it down. But then now we need to pull it tight under. Does that make sense? So I would do it in the middle,
Okay.
like right here.
Okay.
And then now I would do it all along the edge.
Okay.
I mean, not all along,
Yeah.
but secure it. Good. Okay, so now, first of all, we can get it as spaced out as it will go. We're not gonna be down here yet.
Okay.
We're gonna go along this way. You just wanna get it as stretched. So, once you get it nice and smoothed out, we can just do it in quadrants probably.
Okay.
So I put one like right here.
Okay.
I'm gonna do one like right there. Now you really can just go along
On the edge.
the edge.
Okay, so due to lack of tool/material, we're gonna call it there for the night.
Just staples.
yeah, but we'll get back out in the morning. Okay, everybody, time for day 2 of table construction. So I went ahead, I've taken my trip to Lowe's, I got more staples, so the flannel is all stapled down. I know I didn't quite explain what type of fabric I got. This is cotton flannel rather than felt or anything like that, because it's thick enough to where you're not gonna see the wood or anything like that through it. But I don't think we're gonna need anything under it for it to still have that kind of soft, easy to pick stuff up off of it feel that you want out of a gaming table. So yeah, it's just particle board with the cotton flannel right on top. So yeah, this is all laid down. I went ahead and trimmed the edges off just so there wouldn't be any overhang, to make it simpler to attach the boards for framing. I think I'm gonna need to cut holes in the fabric when it comes time to screw the boards to frame it on, so the screws don't like wind up the fabric and tear it. I kind of had that realization last night. But yeah, I think for now we are good on this piece. I'm gonna take this down off the table and then get started on cutting the cup holder holes and the mounting holes for the microphones, because those of you that don't know, Immersion Renewed is the actual play podcast that I DM. And on May 1st, we're gonna get together in person again for the first time in well over a year to record the show. And that's kind of what pushed me to create this table. But I wanted to have a solution built in for mounting our microphones that wasn't like the clamps that normally you have to screw on, and just something built into the table, since I'm building the table anyway, to where we can just put the microphone stands directly on the table and not have to worry about it. So I think that's next step, is getting all of those holes into the frame, and then we'll start attaching the frame onto the table, I think. So let's go. So having to call a major audible. The whole saw bit, I don't know if y'all can see how big that bit is, and the new drill that I got, it won't fit in it. And I tried using the old drill again one more time, and it's just not gonna cut it. So we're not gonna do cup holders, at least for now. Down the road I might take this part off, I'm gonna return this, because, you know, I'm already kind of behind schedule of where I wanted to be in this process. I don't want to go buy another drill or go buy another one of these, so no cup holders. They can just rest the cups on the ledge. So fortunately, I'll just be able to flip this over because it is kind of torn up. Flip it over, be good as new. So yeah, I guess we're just going to drill the holes for mounting the mic stands. And then we'll get to staining and then assembly. Okay, so just so you all can understand what I'm doing here. So these are what normally hook onto the clamp for our mic stands. Normally there's a clamp that this sits in, clamp goes on the side of the table, and you're good. So I'm gonna try to drill holes into kind of the centered part of these, to where these can just sit in there. And it'll be centered on the side ones. We just need one on this this one. So probably put it towards the end. So what I'm doing now is just figuring out which drill bit is going to work, because I got this copper pipe coupling that's 3/8 of an inch, because I took this with me to Lowe's to see which one would fit this snugly, so that this can be inside the wood, to provide a relatively snug fit, but also prevent this from tearing up the wood too much. This will give us a certain level of protection. And it's gonna sit about here, because we're not gonna drill through the base for the mic stand holes. So it will sit a little bit up, but this will give it a little bit of security and snugness. So I have 2 drill bits. One is 3/8, which is going to be a pretty small hole. And then this one is a 1/2 inch, which this will fit around it, which means the hole is going to be slightly smaller than this. So I'm going to try drilling a hole with my 1/2 inch bit, and then see if I can get this to pound down into that hole. If so, then it'll be good, it'll be secure, snug in there, this will slide down right in. If not, then I may need to wiggle it around a little bit to make the hole a little bit bigger, because I don't have a 3/4 inch hole drill bit. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Okay, so here's all the wood that we need to get stained, that's gonna be facing outwardly on the table. We have our two side framing pieces, our two end framing pieces, and then these 1x2s are going to be underneath the framing pieces just to hide the edge of the particle board here. So we want to stain those also just so the stained look is what people see when they look at the table. So yeah, I just have a really simple wood stain here. Kona is the shade of the stain. I wanted something a little bit darker, just because I that's a personal preference thing. And supposedly it only takes one coat. We'll see how it looks. But yeah, let's get to staining. Okay, yeah, I'm a big fan of how this wood turned out. Like the color, when I was applying it, I was worried it was gonna be too dark because it looked like almost black, but it's definitely got that coffee brown look that I really wanted, that I think will go really well with the navy cloth. So I'm gonna clean off this table, and then I think we're at a point where we can start putting the whole thing together. Okay, so here is theoretically what it's going to look like. I haven't screwed anything down. I realized I wasn't feeling myself putting this together, but I'm kind of glad because this thing is very heavy. It's gonna take a couple people to set this thing up, I'm realizing. So I probably, all things considered, doing it over again, probably would have gone for the 6-foot version, because this thing is huge. I guess I didn't conceptualize 8 feet. So yeah, so this is what it looks like right now. I'm super happy with the look. I love the color. I think it looks very, like, it's not too loud. It's not overly loud, not overly crazy. So yeah, now it's just a matter of screwing everything into place is next step. In a way, like, obviously I'm not gonna screw top down because then I would have screws everywhere. So I gotta go bottom up. And yeah, so that's next step. We'll see how it goes. All right, here it is. All trimmed out on the underneath side. I've got the little copper bits in for the mic stand, which they provide a decent accent. They do stick out a little bit, so these won't be in when we're not recording. Or they might stay in, we'll see. But, and though, like I said, that's a quality of life thing for me. If anybody were to replicate this, obviously you don't need those holes there. But yeah, I think it looks pretty good. It weighs 1,000 pounds, but it looks pretty good. Took a folding table and turned it into a gaming table. And if I had an existing table that I could have used, then that's $50 removed from the cost of this whole thing. Future Eric or past Eric, whoever, man, my hair, will give you the total and the rundown of the cost and all the different stages. But yeah, I mean, going down under here, you can see folding table with the rails right there. So it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, other than the folding table moving, obviously. But it's not going to slide off the table that it's on, which was the purpose of doing that. I love the look of it. I like the navy blue with the dark wood. I like that look. And this is just generic pressure treated lumber with a stain on it. So yeah, I think it looks good. Like I said, couple of tiny, God, my hair, a couple of tiny measurements that could have been done more precisely, and a huge takeaway, and I'll go with my overall takeaways here in a second, back in the study in front of the proper camera. I mean, and for people that do this kind of stuff regularly, this is gonna sound like common sense, but this being my first project in a very long time, just because you buy something that says it's 4 feet or 8 feet or 6 inches or whatever, don't assume that's what it's gonna be. Because yeah, the main hurdles in this whole process were due to me assuming that something I hadn't measured yet was the measurement I ordered. If I would have taken time to measure everything as soon as I got it and note everything, huge amount of headaches relieved from this. But like I said, 2 days work. In actual hours, a day's work probably. Because I didn't get started on working this until 5 in the afternoon yesterday. And so I only got to get a couple hours in then. But yeah, I'm super happy with it. Touch up the stain a little bit. But other than that, it's done. It's ready to be played on, and I'm super excited. What is up, everybody? Time for an update on the table. So I know in the last segment of the video, it sounded like I was pretty well done, but I've decided to go ahead and do a couple more things before I call it good and finished. So I'm gonna sand it down, the wood completely, just because there's some spots that, like the wood, where it's not sanded and the wood will come up a little bit and just leave spots and things like that. And you know, going over it with sanding it down and then reapplying the stain, I feel like is gonna yield a much better like finished product. And when you run your hand over it, it's pretty rough because you know it's treated wood, but not sanding it was clearly a mistake on my part. So we're gonna sand it, and then additionally, I picked up some wood filler, and we're gonna go ahead and fill in these gaps, and then sand that down and stain the wood filler as well, so we don't have these gaps here. So that is the plan. I have a drop cloth here that I'm gonna put down over, so we don't have to deal with while we're sanding like the wood particles, or when we're staining, the stain getting on the cloth here. So yeah, I picked up that. I picked up wood filler, some tack cloth. So this is for after we sand, where we want to put down the wood filler and also stain. This cloth is really good about getting that residual, just cleaning the wood really well, getting everything off it before you stain it, so you get a good finish on it. I have an electric sander right over there, but I picked this up just in case I need to do some lighter work that doesn't require the big one. Tape for the drop cloth, and then a putty knife for application of the wood filler. So yeah, all of this stuff added $35 to the budget, which, you know, this is stuff that I probably should have picked up anyway. I know that if I would have gotten my cuts like precisely perfect on the corners, I may not have needed the wood filler, but you know, you're always gonna potentially have gaps and things like that. So it's good to have that just in case. So that adds a little bit to the total, but once again, we're just gonna go over all of it, see how it turns out. Okay, so we just finished up sanding and applying the wood filler on the corners. My fingers are dirty. So we're gonna let this, you're supposed to let it dry at least 2 hours. We're gonna let it dry overnight just because I'm gonna come back to this in the morning. It's evening time now, so I wanna kind of call it for the day. This is Friday, so I got done with my work day, ran to Lowe's, picked the stuff up, and now I'm doing this. So yeah, we sanded all over, as you can see by the state of the stain, on the edges as well, rounded off the corners of the wood, rounded off the corners of the table as well, and then filled in the gaps with wood filler. So yeah, we're just hoping that this will provide a nice, consistent flow without any gaps around the edge of the table. And I also sanded kind of the edges of the little mic stand holes, just, cleaned everything up. Cleaned it up, gave it kind of those finishing touches that it didn't have before. So I'm hoping tomorrow, once we can sand down the wood filler, reapply the stain, it'll look even better than it did before. So yeah, we'll see. Okay, so it is now Saturday, next morning. So the wood filler was allowed to cure and dry overnight, and I've just got done sanding it. And it filled the gap in well. And it's got a nice, consistent feel across. The only thing is this gap right over here was fairly large, and you see there's one spot that that's still gonna show. But that's a pretty significant gap. My hair is it's morning time, leave me alone. That gap was big enough to where I was concerned that the wood filler was gonna work at all, so I'm happy with that result. One little spot is gonna be a lot better than a big gap. So now I'm gonna clear off the table and reapply my drop cloth, because the edges weren't perfect. And then we're gonna restain everything. Okay, so here's what happened. The table is back in pieces now. Maybe asking yourself why. I'm gonna include a picture, like right here, of when we set it up in the gaming space. That is also where I record my videos and record podcasts and all that kind of stuff, where that table is gonna need to live. And it was too big. 8 feet by 4 feet, it fit in the space. And people could sit around it, but not comfortably and not for multiple hours on end for a gaming session. So we're adapting. So I've taken the table apart completely at this point. And the plan is I've already cut one. Instead of 8 by 4, we're gonna go 6 by 3. So I've cut this one down to, in actuality, about 35.5 inches wide. And we'll have the framing to make up the difference to have it be a true 3 feet wide. And then I have these two here. This one I trimmed a little bit shorter when we were making the 8-foot table because it had some overhang. So these two are also 2 feet long. So we're gonna trim those down to where they are 3 feet wide, keep the 2 feet length. So then we can panel those three together. Then we'll trim down the framing boards to where 3 foot by 6 foot is what will fit. I don't know what, using a Sharpie to mark, that's where the blue came from. So yeah, we'll trim everything and then have a very nice, feasible 6 foot by 3 foot table. 8 foot by 4 foot was great. If we had a large dining area that could have fit in, would have been incredible, would have been wonderful. Too big for our purposes. So maybe next house we can do that. But for now, 6 foot by 3 foot, so we're gonna get to work. Okay, so it is now the next day and I am done resizing all of the pieces. And I'm ready to start putting the table back together. So that's the next step, do that. Probably gonna have to do some wood filler on the corners again. Tried to get the angles as precise as I could, but there's always margin of error, especially first time I was doing it, I had a mounted saw that I could set at an angle. This time around, I had this guy and lines that I was drawing. So I'm gonna give myself a little bit more of a break this time around if things aren't exact. So yeah, but now we're gonna set it up on the folding table, and just like we did before, just start screwing everything together. Okay, so in the process of converting it from 8 foot 8x4 down to 6x3, a big thing happened in that when I was cutting the length of these sideboards, I went too short. I mismeasured, or I didn't mismeasure. I measured exactly what I intended. I just didn't think things through. And so there's no overhang on the ends. Like these are 6 feet long. And so it is the length of the table, which means there's not room for the 1x2s on the ends to cover up the edge of the particle board. So what I ended up doing was just staining the particle board itself, staining the edge of the rails so that when you're looking at it from the side, it still has the stained look. It still looks nice, not as nice as having the 1x2s going around the edge. If I could go back and do it over again, I would have, done it differently, done it properly, but I'm still really happy with the way it turned out. Okay, and here is the finished product set up in the space. Very, very, very happy with it. This is actually while I'm recording the intro and outro for the video, but I realized I didn't have a good shot of the finished product in its 6 foot by 3 foot form. And yeah, I mean, I'm overall really happy with the final touches and the way it turned out. But yeah, let me know what you all think. I'm gonna kick it back over to sitting down Eric to do the outro and everything. But yeah, I just want to take a second to show you all what it looks like set up in the space, kind of the final product after it's been played on. Honestly, we've already played on it this weekend and it turned out really well. And here we are, the final version of the table after a lot of trials and errors. So like I said over the course of the video, don't assume that just because you buy something that's 8 feet long or 2 foot by 4 feet, that it's actually those things. Be sure to double check. Even if you're going to be using whatever hardware spot you go to buy the wood to build this yourself, a lot of them have stations set up to where they will cut the wood for you, so you can give your specifications of I need it to be this long, I need the end at this angle, so on and so forth. But be sure to double check that once you get it home to make sure that it's accurate. You're going to be able to put it together. That's another big takeaway. I did not know that those services were offered. So I definitely would have taken advantage of that and said, hey, I know I'm buying this thing that's 10 feet long, but I need it to be 8 feet with 45-degree angle cuts at the end. And they would have done that for me, and it would have saved me a lot of effort and headaches and one windshield to a car. It's a long story. But yeah, let's talk about the cost, because that's kind of why you're here, is to A, see the process, and B, figure out, can you afford to do this? Because yeah, you could go out and buy even a tabletop off the internet for hundreds of dollars, if not going into the over $1,000 mark for a really high quality one. And this one has a good quality finish to it. My players that played around it really liked it and thought it was good, thought it was well done. They didn't complain about it. Obviously, it being on a folding table takes away some of the illusion of it being a true high-end product. But, if I already had an existing dining table, I could have used that and just built this topper for it, and that would already lessen the cost. So for the folding table, $50 is where you're starting out. Your biggest cost, if you already have the tools, that's going to be your biggest cost. The 1x6s that frame everything, I bought 10-foot long 1x6s. I bought 5 of them, and that ended up being $24. And then if you're doing the 8-foot by 4-foot version, where you have the 1x2s going around the edge like I initially had, I couldn't do that in the end just because of some measurements on my part that I kind of messed up. I wish I could have gone ahead and applied it, but if you just want to build this as you see it behind me, then that's not necessary. But that's $15 for the 1x2s. And then the particle board, for the 8-foot, you need 4 panels. That's $36. Or for the 6-foot by 3-foot, just 3 panels is $27. And then the stain is $12. So if you already have all the tools and everything that you're going to need. Oh, and additionally, the wood filler, putty knife, sandpaper, and tack cloth I had to go out and buy after the fact as well. Almost forgot that. That's also necessary stuff, because even if you have it cut by professionals, there's probably still going to be some gap that you're going to want to fill in with wood filler. But anyway, The cost without having to buy the tools and screws and all that kind of stuff is $168 for an 8 foot by 4 foot gaming table, or $131 for the 6 foot by 3 foot model. And then if you need to buy the tools and everything, if you need to go out and pick up a drill, you need to go out and pick up screws, and you need to go and pick up a paintbrush for applying the stain. If you have nothing, those things are additionally what you will need. There are some things that could be a quality of life improvement, but the things you will need are those three things, which will get your price on the 8 foot by 4 foot up to $230, or on the 6 foot by 3 foot at $206. So, regardless, even if you need to go out and buy a drill, you can still do this whole thing for under $250 to build a good quality gaming table that's going to seat 6 people comfortably. If you stick with the 8 foot by 4 foot, then more than 6 people, and you're going to have a great time with it. I had a great time with this. It was so much fun to be able to roll in a controlled space on a tabletop. I can't wait to get a board game on this thing, to play a board game on it. But let me know, did you all enjoy this type of video? Let me know down below. Do you want to see more projects like this? D&D DIY building. I don't know. I started with a table, which is like the biggest project, but there's plenty of other things that, we like to have as good quality components that can cost quite a bit if you go to buy it off the internet. So what would you like to see me build next? I'm open to suggestions if you want to see more stuff like this. Let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.